Most people think confidence is something you show. They are wrong. Real confidence is something you no longer need to prove. The loudest person in the room is often the most uncertain. The calmest person is often the strongest. This audiobook is not about becoming louder. It is about becoming impossible to shake. Today, you will learn why silence is power, why restraint creates influence, and why the people who need the least attention usually command the most respect. Stop chasing approval. Start building silent confidence. Most people have been taught that confidence is something you display. They believe confidence is speaking first, speaking the loudest, having the quickest answer, or always dominating the room. From childhood, we are rewarded for raising our hands first, for talking more, for proving ourselves again and again. Society quietly teaches that visibility equals value, but this belief has created generations of people who perform confidence instead of living it. They mistake noise for certainty. They mistake speed for wisdom. They mistake attention for respect. The truth is very different. Real confidence rarely announces itself. It enters the room without demanding attention. It listens before speaking. It observes before acting. It understands before responding. The most confident person is not always the one everyone notices first. More often, it is the person who feels no urgency to be noticed at all. That is the first lesson of silent confidence. Confidence doesn't speak first. Confidence watches first. Look around in almost any conversation.
Someone is always trying to impress. They interrupt, they finish other people's sentences, they tell bigger stories, they laugh the loudest, they constantly explain what they know. They fear silence because silence feels like invisibility. But silence is not invisibility. Silence is awareness. There is an enormous difference. The person desperate to be heard is usually fighting an invisible battle inside themselves. They fear being ignored. They fear appearing unintelligent. They fear losing status, so they keep talking. Every sentence becomes another attempt to prove their worth. But the more someone tries to prove themselves, the more obvious their insecurity becomes. The need to impress reveals the fear of being ignored. If a billionaire constantly tells everyone how rich he is, would you believe he feels secure? If a leader constantly reminds people that they are in charge, would you believe they truly feel powerful? If someone repeatedly says, "Trust me," would you instantly trust them? Probably not, because genuine qualities rarely need constant advertisement. The same is true for confidence. Real confidence doesn't introduce itself every 5 minutes. It simply exists. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Remember that. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. The strongest mountain never announces its height. The deepest ocean never explains its depth. The brightest star never asks anyone to notice its light. Nature teaches this lesson every single day. Strength is naturally quiet. Only insecurity constantly seeks confirmation. This doesn't mean confident people never speak.
It means they choose when to speak. That difference changes everything. There is incredible power in waiting. When everyone else rushes to answer, you observe. When emotions begin rising, you remain steady. When people argue, you collect information. While others are reacting, you are understanding. That pause creates advantage, because observation always comes before good decisions. Imagine two people entering a business meeting. The first begins talking immediately. They explain every idea they have. They interrupt others. They defend every opinion before anyone even questions it. The second person says very little. They listen carefully. They notice who interrupts. They notice who is nervous. They notice who influences the room. They notice what everyone else completely misses. After 20 minutes, they finally speak, only once, and everyone listens. Why? Because their words are backed by observation. Observation creates precision. Precision creates authority. Authority creates respect. This is why confident people often seem mysterious. It isn't because they're trying to appear mysterious. It's because they're busy paying attention instead of performing. Most people enter conversations thinking about themselves. What should I say? How do I sound? Do they like me? What if I sound stupid? Notice something. Every one of those thoughts begins with I. Self-consciousness traps attention inside your own head. Confidence shifts attention outward. Instead of wondering how you're being judged, you become curious about the world around you. You stop performing. You start observing. That is freedom. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Say it again.
Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. The quiet mind notices patterns that the noisy mind completely misses. Have you ever noticed how experienced detectives ask more questions than they answer? Have you noticed how skilled negotiators often remain silent after making an offer? Have you noticed how wise teachers sometimes allow uncomfortable silence before speaking? There is psychology behind this. Silence creates space. Space creates thinking. Thinking creates better decisions. People are uncomfortable with silence because silence forces them to face themselves. Many people begin talking simply to escape discomfort, but confident people don't fear discomfort. They sit with it. They allow it. They use it. That ability alone separates ordinary people from extraordinary ones. Now think about arguments. During conflict, the average person reacts immediately. Someone criticizes them, they defend. Someone insults them, they attack. Someone misunderstands them, they explain endlessly. Every reaction gives away emotional control. Every emotional reaction hands the steering wheel to someone else. But the confident person pauses, not because they are weak, because they refuse to surrender control. That pause changes the entire situation. Sometimes the greatest response is no immediate response at all. Sometimes the strongest answer is silence. Not passive silence, intentional silence, controlled silence, powerful silence. Imagine someone trying desperately to provoke you. They expect anger. They expect excuses. They expect emotional chaos. Instead, you smile calmly. You remain composed. You answer only when necessary. Suddenly, they lose their advantage. Why? Because manipulation only works when it receives predictable reactions. No reaction, no control, no victory. Remember this. Power begins with the pause. Again, power begins with the pause. That tiny moment between stimulus and response determines the quality of your entire life. Within that pause lives wisdom. Within that pause lives discipline. Within that pause lives confidence. The people who master that pause become difficult to manipulate, difficult to intimidate, difficult to control. This is why silent confidence feels almost magnetic. People trust calm, they follow calm, they respect calm, even when they cannot explain why. Think about the strongest people you've ever met. Chances are, they didn't spend every minute talking about themselves. They didn't constantly seek validation. They didn't dominate every conversation. They possessed something much deeper: presence, a calm presence, an unshakable presence, a silent confidence. That kind of confidence isn't built by pretending. It is built through discipline, through emotional control, through self-respect, through repeatedly choosing observation over reaction. Every day gives you opportunities to practice. The next time someone interrupts you, don't rush to interrupt back. The next time someone criticizes you, pause before responding. The next time silence appears in a conversation, don't panic. Stay there, breathe, observe, think, respond intentionally. Little by little, your mind changes. You stop feeling pressure to prove yourself. You stop chasing approval. You stop competing for attention. Instead, you begin attracting respect naturally, because respect cannot be demanded. It can only be earned, and it is earned quietly. The world celebrates loud confidence because loud confidence is easy to notice.
But history repeatedly rewards silent confidence, because silent confidence creates lasting influence. The strongest leaders, the greatest thinkers, the wisest mentors, the calmest warriors, none of them needed to announce their strength every moment. Their actions spoke, their character spoke, their consistency spoke. Eventually, their silence spoke louder than anyone else's words. Never forget today's lesson. The first person to speak is not automatically the strongest. The loudest voice is not automatically the wisest. The fastest response is not automatically the smartest. Real confidence doesn't rush. Real confidence doesn't panic. Real confidence doesn't compete for attention. Real confidence waits. Real confidence observes. Real confidence chooses. Because confidence doesn't speak first. It understands first. It listens first. It thinks first. And only then, it speaks.
Remember these words whenever you enter a room, begin a conversation, or face a challenge. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Power begins with the pause. Confidence doesn't speak first. Confidence understands first. That is where silent confidence begins. Have you ever noticed how much of your day is spent explaining yourself? You explain why you were late. You explain why you made a certain decision. You explain why you changed your mind. You explain why you said no. You explain your goals. You explain your dreams. You explain your boundaries. And often you keep explaining long after the other person has stopped listening. Most people think this is kindness. They think it is politeness. They think that
If they provide enough reasons, enough details, enough evidence, everyone will understand them. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The more you feel the need to explain yourself, the less confident you appear. Why? Because constant explanation often comes from one hidden belief. I need your approval before I can trust my own decision. That single belief quietly controls millions of lives. People don't just explain their choices, they defend them. They don't simply answer questions, they build entire arguments for decisions that were never anyone else's to make. This is not communication. It is insecurity wearing the mask of politeness. The confident person understands something different. Not everyone will understand your choices. Not everyone will agree with your path, and not everyone needs to. That realization is freedom. You owe fewer explanations than you think. Say it again. You owe fewer explanations than you think. Imagine a tree growing in the middle of a forest. Does it stop growing because another tree disagrees? Does it ask permission before reaching toward the sunlight? Does it explain why its branches stretch in one direction instead of another? Of course not. It simply grows. It follows its nature. Human beings, however, often spend more energy explaining their direction than actually moving in it. We announce our plans before we've taken the first step. We defend our dreams before we've done the work. We seek permission instead of progress. And while we're busy explaining, life keeps moving. Think about the people you admire most.
The entrepreneur who built a successful company, the athlete who trained before sunrise every morning, the artist who spent years perfecting their craft, the leader who stayed focused while others doubted them. Did they convince everyone first? No, they worked first. Their success became their explanation. That's why one of the greatest principles of silent confidence is this: results are louder than reasons. Again, results are louder than reasons. Anyone can explain, anyone can promise, anyone can say they are going to change, but only disciplined action creates undeniable proof. Words create expectations, results create belief. Imagine two people applying for the same promotion. The first spends weeks telling everyone how qualified they are. They remind coworkers of every achievement. They explain why they deserve the opportunity. The second says very little. They arrive prepared, they solve problems, they help others, they improve every project they touch. When promotion day arrives, who seems more confident? Usually the second person. Not because they spoke more, because they worked more. Their actions answered questions before anyone asked them. That is silent confidence. Now let's talk about something even more difficult: the fear of being misunderstood. Most people hate being misunderstood. If someone misinterprets their intentions, they rush to correct them. If someone believes a rumor, they immediately defend themselves. If someone disagrees, they desperately search for the perfect explanation. But here's the problem. No explanation can control another person's mind. Some people have already decided what they believe.
Some people don't want understanding. They want confirmation of their existing opinions. You could explain yourself perfectly, and they would still choose misunderstanding. This is one of life's hardest lessons. You cannot force understanding. You cannot force agreement. You cannot force respect. You can only control your own actions. The moment you accept this, a tremendous weight disappears from your shoulders. You stop trying to manage everyone else's thoughts. You stop chasing impossible approval. You begin protecting your peace. Remember this: you don't need everyone's agreement. Again, you don't need everyone's agreement. There will always be people who misunderstand your silence. Some will mistake it for weakness. Others will call it arrogance. Some will think you've changed.
Others will assume you've become distant. Let them think what they choose, because confidence isn't built by correcting every misunderstanding. Confidence is built by remaining true to your principles. The truth has patience. It doesn't panic. A person who knows who they are doesn't feel threatened by temporary opinions. Think about history. Many great innovators were criticized long before they were celebrated. Inventors were called foolish, writers were rejected, artists were ignored, entrepreneurs were laughed at. If they had spent all their time explaining themselves, they would never have had time to build anything meaningful. Their work eventually became their answer. Your life works the same way. Spend less time defending your direction. Spend more time walking it. One day, your consistency will explain everything words never could.
There is another hidden danger in constant explanation. It trains your brain to seek permission. Every unnecessary
Explanation sends a quiet message to yourself. Maybe my decision isn't enough unless someone approves it. That thought slowly weakens self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Confidence isn't believing you'll never make mistakes. Confidence is believing you can handle the consequences of your decisions, even if you choose wrong, even if you fail, even if others disagree. Because confident people understand something important. Mistakes are temporary. Approval addiction is permanent unless you break it. So how do you stop explaining yourself? You begin with small moments. When someone asks why you're protecting your time, give a simple answer, no long speech. When someone questions a healthy boundary, state it calmly, no apology. When someone disagrees with your goals, smile, continue working. When someone criticizes your progress, listen if there's wisdom, ignore it if there's only noise. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Some things become clearer through time than through conversation. Silence often allows truth to reveal itself. People notice consistency. They notice integrity. They notice discipline. Eventually, they stop questioning, not because you convinced them, because your actions became impossible to ignore. This is why mature confidence feels peaceful. It doesn't constantly seek validation. It doesn't desperately chase approval. It doesn't panic when misunderstood. It remains steady, calm, focused, certain. There is incredible freedom in saying less, freedom in trusting yourself, freedom in allowing results to speak. Remember these words every morning.
You owe fewer explanations than you think. Results are louder than reasons. You don't need everyone's agreement. Repeat them until they become part of your identity. Because the moment you stop trying to convince everyone else, you finally have enough energy to convince yourself. And once you truly believe in yourself, very little explanation is necessary. From that day forward, let your character speak. Let your discipline speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your achievements speak. And whenever you feel the urge to explain yourself to everyone around you, pause and ask one simple question. Am I seeking understanding or am I seeking approval? The answer to that question will reveal everything. Stop explaining. Start building. The world will eventually understand what your actions have been saying all along. There is a truth that most people never realize until it is too late. The greatest prison in the world is not made of steel. It is made of emotion. Every day, millions of people wake up believing they are making their own decisions. They think they are choosing their words, their actions, and their reactions. But if you look closely, you will discover something disturbing. Many people are not living from intention. They are living from reaction. A rude comment changes their mood. A negative message ruins their entire day. A stranger's opinion steals their confidence. A social media post creates envy. A criticism destroys their motivation. One emotional trigger after another quietly controls their life.
And they never stop to ask one simple question. Who is really in control? If someone else can change your emotions whenever they want, if a single sentence can destroy your peace, if one person's behavior determines your attitude, then they are holding the steering wheel of your life. That is not freedom. That is emotional dependence. Real confidence begins the moment you take that steering wheel back. This is why one of the greatest forms of power is not physical strength, intelligence, or wealth. It is emotional control. Your reaction is your responsibility. Say it again.
Your reaction is your responsibility. Most people spend their lives trying to control other people. They try to control opinions. They try to control outcomes. They try to control circumstances. But they ignore the only thing they truly have the power to control: themselves. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once taught that some things are within our control and some are not. Our thoughts, our choices, and our actions belong to us. Other people's opinions, words, and behaviors do not. Yet every day people reverse this truth. They obsess over what others think. They argue with strangers. They replay conversations in their minds. They imagine better responses long after the moment has passed. They lose sleep over things they cannot change. Meanwhile, the one thing they could improve, their own response, is left untouched. A silent mind refuses to play this game.
A silent mind understands that peace is too valuable to be handed away so easily. Imagine a puppet controlled by invisible strings. Every insult pulls one string. Every compliment pulls another. Every criticism makes it dance. Every praise changes its direction. Who is
Controlling the puppet? Not the puppet, the one holding the strings. Many people live exactly like this. Their happiness rises and falls according to the opinions of others. One compliment makes them feel powerful. One criticism makes them feel worthless. Their emotions are constantly being managed by someone else. But the moment you cut those strings, everything changes. You become difficult to manipulate. You become difficult to intimidate. You become difficult to control. Because manipulation only works when someone can predict your emotional response. Think about the people who constantly create drama. They expect you to become angry. They expect you to defend yourself. They expect you to argue. They expect you to lose control. The moment you do exactly what they expected, they win. Not because they were right, because they controlled your emotions. Remember this. Calm people are difficult to manipulate. Again, calm people are difficult to manipulate. Silence frustrates manipulation. Why? Because manipulators feed on reaction. Imagine throwing a ball against a wall. Every time the ball hits, it comes back. That is what emotional manipulation expects. Action, reaction. Action, reaction. But what happens if the wall disappears? The ball has nowhere to return. The cycle ends. Silence breaks the cycle. That does not mean becoming passive. It means becoming intentional. There is a difference. Passive people stay silent because they are afraid. Confident people stay silent because they are choosing their response. One silence comes from fear. The other comes from strength. Never confuse the two.
One of the most powerful skills you will ever develop is emotional detachment. Many people misunderstand detachment. They think it means becoming cold, uncaring, emotionless. It doesn't. Detachment simply means refusing to let temporary events control permanent peace. You still care, you still love, you still feel, but your emotions no longer become prisoners of every outside event. Think of the ocean. On the surface, waves rise and crash, storms appear, wind creates chaos. But deep beneath the surface, the ocean remains calm. That is the mind you are building. Your surface may experience frustration, disappointment, criticism, failure, but underneath, there is stillness. That stillness becomes your strength. Every insult you ignore strengthens it. Every unnecessary argument you avoid strengthens it. Every emotional reaction you replace with thoughtful response strengthens it. Little by little, your inner world becomes untouchable. Now consider this. Not every insult deserves your attention. Not every disagreement deserves your energy. Not every invitation deserves your acceptance. This includes invitations to anger, invitations to jealousy, invitations to fear, invitations to resentment. People will offer these invitations every day. The question is simple. Will you accept them? Imagine someone walks towards you carrying a heavy bag of garbage. They insist you hold it. Would you? Probably not. Then why accept emotional garbage so easily? Why carry someone else's bitterness? Why carry someone else's anger? Why carry someone else's insecurity? You have a choice, always. Remember this phrase, not every invitation deserves your attention. Again,
Not every invitation deserves your attention. The strongest people understand something remarkable. Ignoring is sometimes stronger than arguing. Walking away is sometimes stronger than winning. Smiling is sometimes stronger than proving a point, because peace has become more valuable than pride. That doesn't happen overnight. It requires practice. Every difficult conversation becomes training. Every criticism becomes practice. Every disappointment becomes another opportunity to strengthen emotional discipline. Each time you refuse to react impulsively, you build a stronger identity. Each time you pause, you become harder to manipulate. Each time you choose peace, you become freer. Think about leaders during moments of crisis. The room is filled with panic. Everyone is shouting. Everyone wants immediate answers. The weak leader absorbs the panic. The strong leader absorbs the information. Notice the difference. One reacts emotionally. The other responds intentionally. Which one would you trust? Exactly. Calm creates confidence. Confidence creates leadership. Leadership creates influence. The same principle applies to your own life. Whether you're raising children, building a business, leading a team, or simply trying to become a better person, your emotional stability becomes your greatest advantage. People naturally trust those who remain calm under pressure, not because they know everything, but because they demonstrate control over the only thing that truly matters, themselves. There will always be people trying to provoke you. Some will question your abilities. Some will doubt your dreams. Some will criticize your choices. Some will attempt to pull you into endless conflict. Let them. You do not have to attend every emotional battle you are invited to. You do not have to answer every accusation. You do not have to defend every misunderstanding. Sometimes the greatest victory is refusing to play a game designed to steal your peace. Because peace is expensive, do not give it away cheaply. As you continue this journey of silent confidence, remember that your mind is becoming your greatest protector, not because it has learned to fight harder, but because it has learned to remain still. Stillness creates clarity. Clarity creates wise decisions. Wise decisions create powerful lives. The silent mind cannot be rushed. It cannot be baited. It cannot be easily shaken. It cannot be easily controlled, because it has discovered the greatest secret of emotional freedom. No one controls your inner world unless you hand them the key. So guard that key, protect it, value it, and every time life tries to pull you into unnecessary emotional chaos, stop and repeat these words. Your reaction is your responsibility. Calm people are difficult to manipulate. Not every invitation deserves your attention. Say them until they become automatic, because when your mind becomes quiet, your confidence becomes unshakable. And once your confidence becomes unshakable, the world loses its power to control you. There is an invisible addiction that controls more people than they realize. It doesn't come in a bottle. It isn't sold in a store. You won't find it locked behind a pharmacy counter, yet millions of people wake up craving it every single day. They crave approval. They crave recognition. They crave acceptance. They crave someone else saying, "You're good enough." And without realizing it, they slowly hand over control of their happiness to people who were never meant to carry that responsibility. Think about your own life. How many decisions have you made because they truly reflected who you are? And how many were made because you wanted someone else to approve? Maybe you chose a career to impress your family. Maybe you stayed in a relationship because you feared being judged. Maybe you remained silent because you didn't want anyone to dislike you. Maybe you bought things you didn't need just so people would think you were successful. Maybe you changed yourself so someone else would stay. If any of this feels familiar, you are not alone. Almost everyone begins life seeking approval. The problem isn't that we enjoy appreciation. The problem begins when approval becomes a requirement instead of a bonus. Because the moment your confidence depends on someone else's opinion, it no longer belongs to you. It belongs to them. That is one of the most dangerous trades a person can make. Remember this:
Approval is borrowed confidence. Say it again. Approval is borrowed confidence. Borrowed confidence feels wonderful for a moment. Someone compliments you, you feel powerful. Someone praises your work, you feel valuable. Someone applauds your success,
You feel worthy. But then something changes. Someone criticizes you. Someone ignores you. Someone rejects you. And suddenly, the confidence disappears. Why? Because it was never yours. It was borrowed. Anything borrowed can be taken away. Real confidence cannot. This is why approval is such a dangerous addiction. Like every addiction, it demands larger and larger doses. One compliment isn't enough anymore. You need 10. One promotion isn't enough. You need another. 1,000 followers become 10,000. 10,000 become 100,000. No amount ever feels complete because external validation has no finish line. The destination keeps moving. The person chasing approval never arrives. Imagine trying to fill a bucket with water while there is a hole in the bottom. No matter how much water you pour in, it keeps leaking out. That is exactly what happens when your self-worth depends on external praise. Compliments leak away, achievements lose their excitement, recognition fades, and once again, you search for another source of validation. The cycle never ends unless you decide to end it. Silent confidence begins with a simple but life-changing realization. Your value existed before anyone noticed it. A diamond buried deep beneath the earth is still a diamond. It does not become valuable the moment someone discovers it. Its value was always there. The discovery changes people's awareness, not the diamond's worth. You are the same. Your worth does not increase because someone praises you. It does not decrease because someone criticizes you. It simply is. The problem is that most people confuse recognition with value. Recognition is temporary. Value is permanent. One depends on people. The other depends on character. That is why you must begin building internal standards. Instead of asking, "Do people approve of me?" ask, "Did I live according to my principles today?" Instead of wondering, "Did they notice my effort?" ask, "I give my best effort." Instead of asking, "Do they think I'm successful?" ask, "Am I becoming the person I promised myself I would become?" Do you see the shift? One way of living depends on the world. The other depends on you. Remember this phrase: your standards matter more than their opinions. Again, your standards matter more than their opinions. Standards are different from expectations. Expectations rely on outcomes. Standards rely on identity. For example, you may fail at something important. Your expectation was success, but your standard was courage. Even though you failed, you still honored your standard by trying. That builds confidence. Because confidence is not built by perfect results. It is built by repeated integrity. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, confidence grows. Each time you choose honesty over popularity, confidence grows. Each time you remain disciplined when nobody is watching, confidence grows. Notice something. None of those moments require applause. None require attention. None require validation. Because the audience that matters most is your own conscience. Imagine living in a world where no one could applaud you. No awards, no likes, no compliments, no trophies. Would you still do the work? Would you still pursue excellence? Would you still choose discipline? If the answer is yes, then you are becoming dangerous in the best possible way. Because now your motivation cannot be controlled. People can take away applause. They cannot take away purpose. One of the greatest traps of modern life is comparison. Every day, people scroll through carefully edited images, perfect vacations, perfect relationships, perfect careers, perfect lifestyles. They compare their ordinary moments to someone else's highlight reel. Then they wonder why they feel inadequate. Comparison quietly whispers, "You are behind. You are not enough. You need what they have." But comparison is built on illusion. You rarely see the loneliness behind the smile, the debt behind the luxury, the anxiety behind the success, the struggle behind the achievement. You compare your reality to someone else's performance. That comparison will always steal your peace. Instead, compare yourself to who you were yesterday. That is the only comparison that builds confidence. The goal is not to become better than everyone else. The goal is to become better than your previous self. Progress is personal. Growth is personal. Character is personal. Stop measuring your journey using someone else's map. There is another truth you must accept. Not everyone will appreciate you. Some people will misunderstand your kindness. Some will envy your success. Some will criticize your discipline. Some will dislike you simply because they remind them of what they refuse to become. Accept it. You are not responsible for managing everyone else's opinions. Trying to please everyone is one of the fastest ways to lose yourself. The person who tries to satisfy everyone eventually satisfies no one, especially themselves. You cannot build a meaningful life while constantly asking permission. You cannot become extraordinary while trying to avoid criticism.
You cannot discover your purpose while living someone else's expectations. Freedom begins the day you stop asking, "What do they want me to be?" and start asking, "Who am I becoming?" That question changes everything, because identity is stronger than approval. Purpose is stronger than popularity. Character is stronger than reputation. Remember this. Validation is optional. Again, validation is optional. You may enjoy appreciation. You may welcome encouragement. You may smile at compliments, but you no longer depend on them. That is the difference. The applause becomes pleasant, not necessary. The praise becomes appreciated, not addictive. The recognition becomes welcome, not required. That is emotional independence. And emotional independence creates silent confidence. Imagine walking into a room where nobody knows your achievements, nobody knows your education, nobody knows your salary, nobody knows your past. Would you still feel valuable? If your answer depends on whether they admire you, there is still work to do. But if your answer is yes, then your confidence is finally coming from the right place. Because true confidence never asks, "Do they believe in me?" It quietly says, "I believe in myself." Never forget today's lesson. Your worth is not decided by applause. Your value is not determined by popularity. Your future is not limited by rejection. Stop chasing approval. Start building character. Stop seeking validation. Start becoming undeniable. And every morning, before the world has a chance to tell you who you should be, repeat these words. Approval is borrowed confidence.
Your standards matter more than their opinions. Validation is optional. Repeat them until they become part of your identity. Because the day you stop living for applause is the day you
Finally begin living for yourself. That is the day silent confidence becomes permanent. There is one question that quietly separates confident people from everyone else. It is not, "How talented are you?" It is not, "How intelligent are you?" It is not even, "How motivated are you?" The real question is much simpler. Can you trust yourself? Think about that for a moment. Can you trust yourself to wake up when the alarm rings? Can you trust yourself to finish what you start? Can you trust yourself to keep your word when no one is watching? Can you trust yourself to stay committed after the excitement disappears? Because confidence is not built by what you say. Confidence is built by what you repeatedly prove to yourself. Most people believe confidence comes first. They think, "Once I feel confident, I'll finally take action." But life works in the opposite direction. Action creates confidence. Discipline creates confidence. Consistency creates confidence. Waiting for confidence before acting is like waiting for the sun to rise before opening the curtains. Sometimes you have to move first. Then the light appears. Remember this. Preparation creates peace. Say it again. Preparation creates peace. Imagine two students preparing for the same important exam. The first spends weeks procrastinating. They scroll through social media. They tell themselves they'll study tomorrow. When the exam finally arrives, fear takes over. Not because the exam is impossible, but because they know they are unprepared. The second student follows a different path.
Every day they study a little. Some days they feel motivated. Other days they don't.
but they continue anyway. When the exam arrives, they still feel nervous, but underneath the nerves is something much stronger: confidence. Not because they are lucky, because they are prepared. Preparation always reduces fear. This principle applies to every area of life. The athlete trains before the competition. The musician practices before the performance. The pilot rehearses before the flight. The surgeon studies before the operation. The leader prepares before the crisis. None of them depend on motivation. They depend on discipline. Because motivation is emotional, discipline is intentional. Motivation asks, "Do I feel like it today?" Discipline says, "It doesn't matter. We begin anyway." That single difference changes lives. Most people are controlled by their feelings. If they feel inspired, they work. If they don't, they wait. Days become weeks, weeks become months. Dreams slowly disappear beneath excuses. Disciplined people understand something different. Feelings change. Purpose remains. They know that the person who succeeds is rarely the person who felt motivated every day. It is the person who showed up anyway. Remember this phrase: confidence is earned repeatedly. Again, confidence is earned repeatedly. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes evidence. Evidence that you are dependable. Evidence that you can finish difficult things. Evidence that your word means something. Imagine making one small promise every morning.
I will exercise for 20 minutes. I will read 10 pages. I will avoid unnecessary distractions. I will go to bed on time. Simple promises, nothing extraordinary. Now, imagine keeping those promises every day for 1 year. Who would you become? You would become someone who trusts themselves, and self-trust is the foundation of quiet confidence. Many people unknowingly destroy their confidence by breaking promises to themselves. They decide to wake up early, then they don't. They promise to stop procrastinating, then they postpone again. They promise to save money, then they spend impulsively. Each broken promise sends a dangerous message to the mind: my own words cannot be trusted. Think about that. If a friend broke every promise they made to you, would you trust them? Probably not. Then why would your mind trust you after years of broken commitments? Every broken promise weakens self-respect. Every kept promise strengthens it. That is why discipline matters so much. It is not simply about productivity, it is about identity. The disciplined person doesn't constantly ask, "What do I want to do?" They ask, "Who am I becoming?" Identity changes behavior. Someone who identifies as healthy naturally protects their body. Someone who identifies as honest naturally tells the truth. Someone who identifies as disciplined naturally follows through. Behavior follows identity, but identity is built through repetition. Every small action becomes another vote for the person you wish to become. Never underestimate small victories. People often believe confidence requires massive achievements, winning awards.
Building companies, making millions, changing the world. Those accomplishments are impressive, but quiet confidence is usually built much earlier. It is built when you choose discipline over comfort, when nobody notices, when nobody applauds,
when nobody is watching. Imagine a mason laying bricks. Each brick seems insignificant. One brick cannot become a house, but thousands of carefully placed bricks eventually create something extraordinary. Discipline works the same way. One early morning doesn't change your life. One workout doesn't transform your body. One chapter doesn't make you an expert. But repeated consistently, everything changes. Small disciplines become powerful habits. Powerful habits become strong character. Strong character becomes lasting confidence. There is another secret about discipline. It reduces unnecessary decision-making. Undisciplined people negotiate with themselves constantly. Should I work today? Should I exercise? Should I study? Maybe tomorrow. Every decision drains mental energy. Disciplined people eliminate those conversations. The decision has already been made. They simply execute. This creates peace. Imagine brushing your teeth. Do you debate whether to do it every morning? No, it has become automatic.
Now imagine discipline becoming equally automatic. You no longer negotiate with laziness. You no longer argue with excuses. You simply begin. That simplicity creates enormous mental freedom. One of the greatest enemies of discipline is perfectionism. Many people delay action because conditions aren't perfect. They wait for the perfect mood, the perfect opportunity, the perfect plan, the perfect timing. But perfection is often procrastination wearing a beautiful disguise. Disciplined people understand that imperfect action always defeats perfect intention. A completed task teaches more than a perfect plan left unfinished. Progress beats perfection every single time. Remember this. Keep promises to yourself. Again, keep promises to yourself.
Those 5 words can transform your entire life. Not giant promises, small promises. Promises you can honor. Promises that slowly rebuild trust between you and yourself. As that trust grows, fear begins to disappear. Doubt begins to weaken. Confidence begins to rise. Because your mind now possesses evidence, you have become someone who follows through. Imagine looking into the mirror after months of disciplined living. You no longer need motivational speeches every morning. You no longer need constant encouragement. You no longer depend on outside validation. Why? Because every day has become proof. Proof that you can handle discomfort. Proof that you can remain committed. Proof that you are stronger than temporary feelings. That proof becomes silent confidence. Notice something remarkable. The most disciplined people rarely talk about discipline. They simply live it. Their actions reveal it. Their routines reveal it. Their consistency reveals it. They don't announce every workout. They don't broadcast every sacrifice. They don't advertise every victory. Because discipline is not a performance. It is a lifestyle. And lifestyles speak louder than announcements. As you continue building silent confidence, remember this truth. Nobody can give you lasting confidence. Nobody can sell it to you. Nobody can hand it to you. You must build it yourself. One promise, one habit, one disciplined decision at a time. Never forget today's lessons. Preparation creates peace. Keep promises to yourself. Confidence is earned repeatedly. Repeat them every morning. Repeat them every evening. Live them every day.
Because discipline is doing what needs to be done long after motivation has disappeared. And the person who masters discipline eventually discovers something extraordinary. They no longer need to convince the world they are confident. Their habits quietly do it for them. That is the power of quiet confidence. That is the strength that cannot be borrowed. That is the confidence no one can take away. There is something more valuable than money, more valuable than talent, more valuable than intelligence. You can lose money and earn it back. You can develop new skills. You can learn new knowledge. But there is one resource you can never recover once it is spent: your energy. Every single day, life asks one question: where will you invest your energy? Most people never answer that question consciously. Instead, they allow everyone else to answer it for them. A rude coworker steals their peace. A negative comment ruins their afternoon. An argument consumes their evening. A stranger's opinion occupies their thoughts before they fall asleep. By the end of the day, they are exhausted. Not because they worked too hard, because they wasted their energy on things that never deserved it. That is why silent confidence begins with a powerful decision. Your energy is your responsibility. Say it again. Your energy is your responsibility. Think of your energy like money in a bank account. Every conversation is a withdrawal. Every worry is a withdrawal. Every unnecessary argument is a withdrawal. Every moment of resentment is a withdrawal. Every hour spent comparing yourself to others is
Another withdrawal. Now ask yourself, are you spending your emotional wealth wisely? Or are you giving it away to people who have done nothing to earn it? Most people guard their wallets more carefully than they guard their peace. They would never hand a stranger $100, yet they willingly hand strangers hours of their emotional attention. One insulting comment, one careless opinion, one disrespectful remark, and suddenly that stranger owns their entire day. Never make someone that powerful.
Remember this: not every battle deserves you. Again, not every battle deserves you. Imagine a lion walking through the African savanna. Small animals bark, birds make noise, monkeys scream from the trees. Does the lion chase every sound? Does it stop every few minutes to prove its strength? No, because a lion understands something important. If it chased every distraction, it would never reach its destination. Your life works the same way. Every day there will be distractions. People who criticize, people who gossip, people who provoke, people who compete with you for no reason, people who misunderstand you, people who want your attention simply because they lack direction themselves. If you stop for every one of them, you will never have enough energy left for your own purpose. Confident people understand that attention is expensive. They spend it carefully. The average person reacts to everything, every notification, every rumor, every insult, every controversy, every emotional invitation. By the end of the week, they feel overwhelmed.
Not because life is impossible, because they never learned to filter. Filtering is a superpower. Just because something reaches you does not mean it deserves you. Think about your phone. You receive spam messages, advertisements, scam calls. Do you answer everyone? Of course not. You ignore them because you understand they have no value. Now ask yourself, why don't you treat emotional distractions the same way? Someone insults you, spam. Someone gossips about you, spam. Someone tries to provoke an argument, spam. Someone criticizes a decision that has nothing to do with them, spam. Delete it. Move on. Protect your peace. The world rewards people who know the difference between what deserves attention and what deserves silence. Remember this phrase: distance protects peace. Again, distance protects peace. Many people believe walking away is weakness. They think strength means staying in every fight, winning every debate, correcting every misunderstanding, getting the last word. But mature confidence understands something entirely different. Sometimes walking away is the strongest move you can make, because walking away is not surrender, it is selection. You are choosing peace over pride, growth over ego, purpose over drama. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with rocks. Every unnecessary argument adds another rock. Every grudge adds another rock. Every toxic relationship adds another rock. Every act of resentment adds another rock. Soon the weight becomes unbearable. Life feels exhausting. Not because life is too difficult, because you are carrying things you were never meant to carry.
Now, imagine removing one rock every day. Forgiveness removes one, boundaries remove another, silence removes another, acceptance removes another. Eventually, the backpack becomes light again. That lightness is peace, and peace is where confidence grows. One of the greatest misunderstandings about successful people is that they have more energy than everyone else. Usually they don't. They simply waste less of it. They understand that energy follows focus. If your attention is constantly divided, your power is constantly divided. Imagine sunlight shining across an open field. It provides warmth. Now imagine that same sunlight passing through a magnifying glass. Suddenly, it becomes powerful enough to start a fire. What changed? Not the sunlight, the focus. Your energy works exactly the same way. Scattered attention creates average results. Focused attention creates extraordinary results. That is why protecting your attention is protecting your future. Remember this: protect your attention. Again, protect your attention. Where attention goes, life follows. If your attention constantly follows drama, your life becomes dramatic. If your attention follows comparison, your confidence weakens. If your attention follows fear, your opportunities disappear. But if your attention follows purpose, everything changes. The disciplined mind chooses its focus instead of allowing the world to choose for it. Now, think about the people you spend time with. Energy is contagious. Spend enough time around negative people, and negativity begins to feel normal. Spend enough time around complainers, and complaining becomes your language. Spend enough time around people who blame everyone else,
And personal responsibility slowly disappears. The opposite is also true. Spend time around
disciplined people, and discipline begins to influence you. Spend time around peaceful people, and peace becomes familiar. Spend time around people who solve problems instead of creating them, and your own thinking improves. This is why protecting your energy sometimes means protecting your environment. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your life. That sentence may sound harsh, but it is wisdom. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They keep peace inside while allowing healthy relationships to grow. People who truly respect you will also respect your boundaries. Those who become angry when you establish boundaries often benefited from your lack of them. Never apologize for protecting your peace. Another hidden thief of energy is the desire to control everything. You replay conversations. You predict future problems. You imagine worst-case scenarios. You worry about opinions you cannot change. You mentally fight battles that may never happen. Hours disappear. Nothing changes. Worry creates movement without progress. Silent confidence understands a powerful truth. Control what you can. Release what you cannot. Simple, powerful, freeing. Every minute spent worrying about things outside your control is a minute stolen from building the life you actually want. Imagine planting a seed. Would you dig it up every morning to see if it's growing? No. You water it, protect it, trust the process. Growth requires patience. So does confidence. Protect your energy from unnecessary impatience. Protect your energy from constant comparison. Protect your energy from endless negativity.
Protect your energy from people who only contact you when they need something. Protect your energy from proving yourself. Protect your energy from seeking revenge. Protect your energy from trying to be everything to everyone. Because every unnecessary burden steals strength from your real mission. As this chapter comes to an end, remember one final truth. The strongest people are not those who fight the most battles. They are the people who wisely choose which battles are worth fighting. That wisdom changes everything. Never forget today's lessons. Your energy is your responsibility. Not every battle deserves you. Distance protects peace. Protect your attention. Repeat these words every day. Live them every day. Because the quality of your life will always reflect the quality of what receives your energy. Protect it. Guard it. Invest it wisely. And one day, people will wonder why you remain so calm while everyone else is overwhelmed. They will think you are naturally confident. They will never realize the truth. Your confidence did not come from having more energy than everyone else. It came from refusing to waste it. That is the quiet power of silent confidence. That is how you become impossible to drain. That is how you become impossible to defeat. There is a fear that silently controls millions of people. It is not the fear of failure. It is not the fear of rejection. It is something even more powerful. It is the fear of being unnoticed. Most people don't admit it, but they shape their lives around it. They speak a little louder so people will notice. They post another photo hoping for more attention. They buy expensive things they don't need. They chase titles instead of purpose. They compare their lives to strangers on the internet, not because they truly want those things, but because they want to feel seen, to feel important, to feel significant. There is nothing wrong with wanting appreciation. The danger begins when attention becomes your identity. Because if your happiness depends on being noticed, your peace will disappear the moment people stop looking. That is not confidence. That is dependence. Silent confidence asks a different question. Who am I when nobody is watching? That single question reveals your true character. Because the strongest version of you is not the one standing in front of an audience. It is the one making the right decision in complete silence. When there is no applause, no compliments, no recognition, no reward. That is where real confidence is born. Remember this. Growth happens quietly. Say it again. Growth happens quietly. Think about nature. A tree does not grow overnight. You cannot hear its roots spreading beneath the ground. You cannot hear the branches stretching toward the sky. Every day, tiny changes take place. Invisible, silent, patient. Then one day, people walk by and say, "What a magnificent tree." They admire what they can see. They never witnessed the years of invisible growth that made it possible.
Your life works exactly the same way. People celebrate success. They rarely notice preparation. They admire confidence. They rarely see discipline. They applaud achievement. They rarely witness sacrifice. The world notices results. Life is built in the unseen moments. Most people quit because those unseen moments feel lonely. They work hard for a few weeks. Nobody
notices. They begin exercising. Nobody compliments them. They start a business. Nobody supports them. They begin reading every day. Nobody applauds. Slowly they lose motivation. Why? Because they expected attention before transformation. But transformation always comes first. Recognition comes later, sometimes much later. The farmer plants seeds in the spring. He does not expect fruit the next morning. He waters, he waits, he protects the field. He trusts the process. That patience creates the harvest. Your confidence requires the same patience. Remember this phrase: private work creates public results. Again, private work creates public results. The championship is won long before the final game. The best-selling book is written long before it reaches the bookstore. The successful company is built long before people call it an overnight success. The confident person becomes strong long before anyone notices. Never confuse visibility with progress. Some of the greatest improvements in your life will happen where nobody can see them. The books you read, the habits you build, the workouts you complete, the mornings you wake up early, the temptations you resist, the promises you keep. Nobody may witness those moments, but those moments quietly create the person everyone will eventually admire. This is why ego is such a dangerous enemy. Ego constantly whispers, make sure people know what you're doing. Tell everyone your plans. Post every achievement. Show everyone your progress. But wisdom says, keep working. Because announcing your journey is not the same as completing it.
Many people receive the emotional reward of attention before they earn the actual reward of accomplishment. They talk about writing a book instead of writing. They talk about starting a business instead of building. They talk about becoming disciplined instead of practicing discipline. Talking feels productive, but it changes nothing. Action changes everything. The quiet worker eventually surpasses the loud dreamer, every single time. Imagine two builders constructing houses. The first spends every day telling people how amazing the finished house will be. The second says almost nothing. He simply builds. Months later, one has conversations, the other has a house. That is the difference between performance and progress. Silent confidence chooses progress every day. There is another hidden gift in being unnoticed: freedom. When nobody expects anything from you, you have room to grow. You can make mistakes. You can learn. You can fail privately. You can improve without the pressure of performing. The seed grows underground before facing the world. So should your character. Not everything needs an audience. Not every goal needs an announcement. Not every victory needs a celebration. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is quietly become better. Then let the results introduce you. Remember this: success introduces itself. Again, success introduces itself. A person who is genuinely successful rarely needs to convince anyone. The evidence speaks. A healthy body speaks. A peaceful mind speaks. A disciplined lifestyle speaks. Strong relationships speak. Consistent excellence speaks. Results eliminate arguments. Imagine entering a room where nobody knows your achievements. Would you still feel confident? Or would you immediately search for a way to impress everyone? That answer tells you where your confidence comes from. If you need constant recognition, your confidence is still external. If you remain calm without attention, your confidence is becoming internal. That is freedom. Social media has made this lesson even more important. Never before have so many people compared themselves to so many strangers. Every scroll invites comparison. Every post invites competition. Every notification invites emotional dependence. The temptation is constant. Look at me, notice me, approve of me. But silent confidence quietly steps away from that race. It understands something most people forget. Attention is temporary. Character is permanent. Fame is temporary. Integrity is permanent. Popularity is temporary. Purpose is permanent. One lasts for a moment. The other lasts for a lifetime. Choose wisely.
There will be seasons when your hard work feels invisible. Keep going. There will be mornings when nobody encourages you. Keep going. There will be months when progress seems painfully slow. Keep going. There will be times when others receive recognition before you. Keep going. Because confidence is not built by applause. It is built by persistence. The greatest oak tree was once an unnoticed acorn. The greatest athlete was once an unknown beginner. The greatest leader was once an ordinary student. Every extraordinary person has spent time being invisible. The difference is simple.
They did not confuse invisibility with failure. They understood that hidden seasons produce visible strength. Never rush the process. The roots must grow
before the branches can rise. As this chapter comes to an end, remember that your greatest competition has never been the people around you. It has always been the weaker version of yourself. Every quiet improvement defeats that version. Every disciplined habit defeats that version. Every unnoticed sacrifice defeats that version. One day, people will call you successful. They will admire your confidence. They will wonder how you became so calm. They will assume it happened quickly. Only you will know the truth. It happened quietly. It happened patiently. It happened one unnoticed day at a time. Never forget today's lessons. Growth happens quietly. Private work creates public results. Success introduces itself. Repeat these words whenever you feel discouraged because nobody seems to notice your effort. Because the goal was never to become famous. The goal was never to become admired. The goal was never to become the loudest person in the room. The goal was to become the strongest version of yourself. And strength almost always grows in silence. That is the secret of silent confidence. That is why the people who need the least attention often leave the greatest legacy. Everything you have learned in this audiobook leads to this moment. Silent confidence is not simply about speaking less. It is not about appearing calm. It is not about pretending that nothing affects you.
Silent confidence is about becoming so deeply rooted in your values, your discipline, and your self-respect that the outside world can no longer dictate the inside of your mind. That is the highest level of confidence. Not confidence that depends on success. Not confidence that disappears after failure. Not confidence that rises with praise and falls with criticism, but confidence that remains steady through every season of life. That is the confidence no one can take away. Most people spend their lives trying to create a perfect world. They want perfect circumstances, perfect relationships, perfect careers, perfect health, perfect timing. They believe that once life becomes easier, they will finally feel peaceful. But life has never made that promise. There will always be criticism. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be disappointment. There will always be people who misunderstand you. There will always be moments that test your patience, your discipline, and your character. You cannot eliminate every storm, but you can become the kind of person who remains steady inside the storm. That is the real goal. Remember this, nothing outside controls what's inside. Say it again, nothing outside controls what's inside. Imagine an ancient lighthouse standing beside a violent ocean. The waves crash against the rocks. The wind screams through the night. Rain pours without mercy. Ships struggle against the storm. Yet the lighthouse remains exactly where it was built. It does not chase the waves. It does not argue with the wind. It does not fear the darkness. It simply stands, strong, steady, reliable. That lighthouse is the person you are becoming. Life will continue to create storms. Your strength will come from refusing to become one. Most people believe emotional strength means never feeling pain. That is impossible. Confident people still feel disappointment. They still experience loss. They still feel fear. They still face rejection. The difference is not what they feel. The difference is how long they remain trapped by those feelings. Pain visits everyone. Suffering often stays because people refuse to let it leave. Silent confidence allows emotions to pass through without allowing them to take permanent residence. Imagine your emotions as clouds moving across the sky. Some are bright, some are dark. Some bring storms, some disappear within minutes. The sky never becomes the cloud. It simply allows the cloud to pass. Your mind works the same way. You are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are not your disappointment. You are the awareness observing those emotions. The moment you understand that, everything begins to change. Because now emotions become experiences, not identities. One bad day no longer becomes, I am a failure. One rejection no longer becomes, I am not enough. One mistake no longer becomes, my life is over. Instead, you simply say, this feeling will pass. And it always does. Remember this phrase. Respond with intention. Again, respond with intention. There is a space between what happens to you
And what you choose to do next. Inside that space lives your freedom. Someone insults you. Pause. Someone disappoints you. Pause. Someone doubts you. Pause. Someone tries to provoke you. Pause. The pause is where silent confidence lives. Weak minds react automatically. Strong minds choose deliberately. That choice changes destinies. Imagine two people losing their jobs on the same day. The first believes, my life is ruined. They become bitter. They stop trying. Months pass. Nothing changes. Second person feels the same disappointment, but after allowing themselves to process it, they ask a different question. What can I learn from this? They update their skills. They improve. They keep moving. One event, two different responses, two completely different futures. Circumstances rarely determine destiny. Response does. This is why your response is always more powerful than the event itself. Think about history. The people remembered for greatness were rarely those who avoided hardship. They were the people who refused to be defined by it. Failures became lessons. Criticism became motivation. Obstacles became opportunities. Their confidence came from resilience, not comfort. Your life will offer the same choice. Every setback asks, will this break you or build you? The answer depends on your response. Never forget that. Another truth you must accept is that you cannot control how people see you. Some people will admire you. Others will criticize you. Some will support you. Others will misunderstand you. Trying to manage everyone's opinion is like trying to control the weather. Impossible and exhausting. Instead, manage your own character. Your reputation belongs to others. Your character belongs to you. Character is what you do when no one is watching. Character is what you choose when no one applauds. Character is what remains when popularity disappears. Build character. The reputation will eventually follow. One of the greatest signs of silent confidence is emotional consistency, not emotional perfection. Consistency. You remain respectful even when others become rude. You remain patient even when life becomes difficult. You remain disciplined even when motivation disappears. You remain humble even when success arrives. You remain hopeful even after failure. That consistency creates trust. People trust consistency. They know where they stand with you. They know your values do not change depending on circumstances. That reliability becomes your strength. Imagine a giant oak tree during a storm. The branches move, the leaves shake, the trunk bends, but the roots remain deep. Your emotions may move, your circumstances may change, your plans may need adjustment, but your values, your discipline, your integrity, those are your roots. Protect them, strengthen them. Everything else will survive because of them. Never allow temporary emotions to make permanent decisions. Never allow temporary criticism to destroy permanent dreams. Never allow temporary failure to define permanent identity. Temporary events deserve temporary reactions, nothing more. As you continue your journey, remember that confidence is not measured by how loudly you speak. It is measured by how peacefully you live. Not by how many people admire you, but by how deeply you respect yourself.
not by how many battles you win, but by how many unnecessary battles you wisely avoid. That is maturity. That is wisdom. That is silent confidence. One day someone will try to insult you, and you will smile, not because the words did not hurt, but because they no longer control you. One day someone will doubt your ability, and you will continue working.
Not because you enjoy criticism, but because your belief no longer depends on theirs. One day, life will place another obstacle in your path, and instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you will ask, "How can this make me stronger?" That question will transform every challenge into training, every setback into preparation, every disappointment into growth. Eventually, people will notice something different about you. You no longer chase approval. You no longer react to every insult. You no longer explain every decision. You no longer waste energy on drama. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You no longer panic when life becomes difficult. You simply remain calm, focused, steady, strong. Not because life became easier, because you became stronger. That is what it means to become impossible to shake. As this audiobook comes to its final lesson, carry these truths with you every single day. Nothing outside controls what's inside. Respond with intention. Silent confidence cannot be taken away. Repeat them when life becomes difficult. Repeat them when success arrives. Repeat them when criticism comes. Repeat them when fear whispers that you are not enough. Because confidence is not something you wear, it is something you become. It is built every time you choose discipline over excuses, peace over pride, purpose over popularity, character over comfort, action over words. Again and again, until calm becomes your nature, until strength becomes your identity, until silence becomes your greatest source of power. And when that day comes,
No criticism will steal your peace. No rejection will destroy your worth. No failure will erase your confidence. No obstacle will stop your progress. Because the strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. It is the one who has
Mastered themselves. Become that person. Walk quietly. Stand firmly. Protect your peace. Guard your mind. Honor your word. And let your life become the loudest proof that silent confidence is the greatest power anyone can possess. 1-minute confidence was never about speaking louder. It was never about proving yourself, winning every argument, or collecting everyone's approval. Real confidence is quiet. It is disciplined. It is steady under pressure. Every chapter has pointed to the same truth. Silence is not weakness. It is control. When you stop explaining yourself, you protect your energy. When you stop chasing validation, you discover freedom. When you pause before reacting, you become impossible to manipulate. When you keep promises to yourself, you build unshakable self-respect. Remember this: the strongest person is rarely the loudest person. From this moment forward, let your actions become your introduction, your discipline become your reputation, and your peace become your greatest strength. Now close this audiobook, step into the world, and prove nothing to anyone. Build so quietly, live so confidently, and grow so consistently that your results speak long before your words ever do. The choice is yours. Start today.